What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss everything going on here in our country that you need to know about here on a daily basis. And now the Inflation Reduction Act here is passed in the Senate. And really, the world is in the United States here is has a lot of mixed reactions about it. It will now go to the House of Representatives, where they can add amendments and vote on it to send it to the president's desk. Take a listen.
Your big story this morning is out of Washington, D.C., and it has a lot to do with energy. Senate's passing what they call the Inflation Reduction Act, basically sort of a Build Back Better 2, or the Manchin spending bill, whatever you want to call it. A very narrow vote, all the Republicans against, all the Democrats for. Probably not surprising in 2022, but let's get more about what we do know and some very last-minute changes. Alon Moy joining us now. And Alon, I guess here's the thing. Bernie Sanders doesn't like it. The oil and gas industry kind of likes it. If everybody's a little bit annoyed, maybe that's a win.
Well, I think that the business industry may find some things to quibble with in this bill, but Democrats certainly are celebrating the passage of their health and climate package in the Senate over this past weekend. As you mentioned, there was some last-minute drama leading up to that moment, though. The Senate parliamentarian nixed a provision that would have capped price increases for prescription drugs in the private market, and Republicans successfully fought to exempt private equity from that new 15% corporate minimum tax, with backing from vulnerable Democrats like Senators Kyrsten Sinema, Raphael Warnock, and Maggie Hassan. But the framework of Democrats' proposal remained intact. It allows Medicare to negotiate the price of prescription drugs and caps insulin costs at $35 a month for seniors. It extends Affordable Care Act subsidies and provides new incentives for clean energy. And it establishes a floor on corporate taxes, imposes a new tax on stock buybacks, and invests $80 billion in the IRS.
This Senate Democratic majority has achieved what countless others have come to Washington promising to do, but ultimately failed to deliver. And I am really confident that the Inflation Reduction Act will endure as one of the defining feats of the 21st century.
Well, Democrats hope it'll at least be a defining feature of the midterm elections. Already, the progressive group Move On is running a six-figure ad campaign in Arizona, Georgia, and Nevada. It also touts the July jobs number and the drop in gas prices. So, Brian, we'll see if Democrats can keep this momentum going all the way through November. Back over to you.
No, Alon, we got a lot more to do here. So right now, it's just you and I. We're going to talk for like 35 minutes. All right, so let's jump into a number of provisions here. First off, the Democrats are going to say, we've got Jared Bernstein coming up a bit later on in the show, and like and respect Jared very much, and he will say there are no new taxes in this bill. And technically, that is true, but with D.C., technicals may not be the thing, because they're putting, into your point, 90 or whatever billion dollars to the IRS. That's going to more than double the number of agents. There'll be more agents than there are rich people, so I've got to assume part of this revenue projection is increased audits, and they're going to have to increase the audits on mostly middle and upper middle class America.
Well, that is a point of contention. Certainly Republicans say that that is going to have to be the case simply by the numbers as you sort of laid out there, Brian. But the IRS and the Treasury Department has been very consistent on this and saying their goal is to target higher income people who aren't paying the taxes that they owe. They say that is where the real money is. That is where the tax gap, as they call it, is. And so it makes more sense to invest resources to go after those types of taxpayers. Currently, the IRS being understaffed and without the sort of number of trained enforcers that they need to deal with those types of complex cases, they aren't able to bring that money home in the same way that they have been or they would like to. And so that's why they are saying this money is so critical. But it's also one reason why you're not going to see that payoff from the IRS enforcement for a couple of years, because it does take time to both hire agents, hire enforcers, and then to train them up in order to do the job.
Now, that one particular provision of boosting IRS capacity, in my opinion, very much needed. I'm not a fan of the IRS. I don't think the IRS has any fans at all. But if you've tried to call the IRS and get through to a human, it's almost impossible. I've seen comments of people who have waited on hold for hours and not got through to anybody. I've seen somebody who, what was the comment here? Let's see. Here's one particular comment. My husband and I are still waiting for our 2019 refund, and they can't tell us where the refund went, and we know it was received by the IRS. Yes, the IRS needs a lot of help. And here's the comment I was looking for from Jason. He says, my fiance had claimed the children and the child tax credit on her taxes this year. She never received her third stimulus check. So when she filed, she was supposed to get it all back. But when we discovered she received her refund, that they had sent her third stimulus check to her ex-husband because he had claimed the kids the prior year on his taxes. And even though that prior year she had filed separately, he kept it and didn't tell her. So what did the IRS do? They deducted $2,800 from her taxes and told her she got the third stimulus. And they deducted both his and her third stimulus from her taxes, even though she wasn't the one who received it and filed separately 2 years in a row. We could not get them on the phone. So we went into their office in Scranton and they told her she'd have to call and request an audit. And they still can't get them on the phone. This is one of the major problems. So they go into the office and say, no, sorry, you have to call them on the phone, and you can't get them on the phone. This is the world we live in, guys. Yeah. So the problem is that unless you actually get audited and it actually ends up hurting you, a lot of audits don't even end up hurting you. It really just depends. The average everyday person, in a lot of cases, may need the IRS. If you're waiting on tax returns, I've seen a lot of comments of people since I asked the other day. People said they've been waiting on tax refunds for over a year. Over a year. And I've seen dozens of comments of people who have said that they can't even reach the IRS on the phone. Well, guess what? This is because they have a worker shortage. So this is, in reality is that if they don't have enough people working there, they have to hire more people. So yeah, and in most cases, the IRS owes you money, and the audits are a very few amount of people. Okay, and having to call the IRS when you have a problem and actually being able to talk to somebody. I mean, would you rather be able to talk to somebody or say, sorry, call back later, we're busy, because that's what the automated line will tell you. You can let me know your thoughts here. And a lot of this goes back to Democrat versus Republican, and you'll hear a lot of propaganda and stuff like that. You let me know your thoughts here in the comment section. Yeah, so we'll see what happens here. Here's White House. Here's what the White House has to say here about this package. You can let me know your thoughts on this. This is White House Chief Economist Jared Bernstein.
So first of all, let me just correct something. Yes, no question. Probably correct is too strong a word. You're right. Big win for the president, the White House, congressional Democrats. Much, much bigger win for the American people. That's really where the Inflation Reduction Act hits the road, and very much in the spirit of your questions, which I'll get to, including inflation reduction. But when you're talking about lowering the cost of health care for seniors, capping expenditures that can be $10,000 a year for someone who's dealing with a tragic illness like cancer at $2,000 a year, when you're talking about helping people significantly cut the cost of purchasing everything from clean energy renewables to electric vehicles, standing up the deepest investment in renewables and clean energy, both in terms of manufacturing and in terms of, again, individual purchases of everything from solar panels to wind to heat pumps. You're talking about a measure that's going to significantly reduce costs in some areas where family budgets really pinch. So yes on inflation, more so yes on a big win for the American people.
Let's talk about the impact on business. There is this 15% minimum tax. There's also this issue about a 1% tax on buybacks, which was added in place of carried interest piece of it. Let's go to the carried interest piece first. Can you explain who got to Senator Sinema and what that was about?
Yeah, I wouldn't have the answer to a question like that. There are people who are probably tracking the negotiations closer than I. I'm here to do economic policy analysis, and let me tell you a little bit about that. So what came out, the carried interest, closing that loophole, something the president has always called for. That was a $14 billion score over 10 years. That is, it reduced the deficit by $14 billion. What went in, the 1% excise tax on buybacks, reduced the deficit by $74 billion over 10 years. So in a sense, in a very real sense, more deficit reduction there, which, by the way, gets back to your first question. The deficit reduction, much of which is front-loaded in this bill, is very much disinflationary. It's very much in the spirit of what you were just talking to Steve Leisman about, negative fiscal impulse. So that's another way in which the bill helps.
Do you have any concerns when it comes to the issue of buybacks? And I know we've had debates about whether they should be taxed or shouldn't be taxed, but there is an argument to be made that you're going to see executives, you're going to see a couple things. I think there's an expectation you're going to see a lot of buybacks this year to get ahead of that. I don't know if you think that's a good or bad thing. Maybe if the stock market's down, companies are going to buy their stock for cheap, and that's good. On the flip side, executives, oftentimes paid with stock, gives them skin in the game. One of the reasons they buy back stock is to prevent dilution. That may dissipate a bit. Do you have any concerns about sort of unexpected exogenous things taking place as a result of this?
Yeah, I think they can go another way as well, which I'll get to in a second, which is potentially more retained earnings, greater investment, which ultimately would actually boost the value of companies. Let me point out this by starting with, Jared's first rule of tax avoidance, which is if one type of a payout is favored over another tax-wise, you can bet that everybody with a tax lawyer is going to go for that type. And the fact that buybacks are treated differently in the tax code than dividends creates a distortive incentive that has been really overly taken advantage of in recent years. After the first year of the Republican tax cut, buybacks amounted to something like $1 trillion, and we saw a negative impact on corporate investment. So this tax not only injects fairness into the tax code, it raises more than what it replaces. It has the potential to actually incentivize more internal investment, something we haven't seen enough of. So I think the incentives point in the right direction, and also, once again, disinflationary in terms of deficit reduction.
So just so you know, these companies that make billions of dollars, the Amazons, the Nikes, they get audited most of the time. It depends on the year. It's maybe about a 50-50, okay? The reason here is they used to get audited more, but the IRS staff has been cut, especially during the Trump years, particularly because Republicans don't like the IRS. So they really cut down on IRS staff. But the problem here is yes, it's cut down on audits, but we've also seen the problems here with the IRS now, with refunds, with calling the IRS. So it's a double-edged sword. So yeah, you might not get audited as much, but have you ever been audited? So this is kind of the issue here, is that you can't reach the IRS, you can't get your refunds, if you have a problem, you can't get through to them. So here's kind of the details on this. The IRS is actually losing billions of dollars by skipping audits of the largest corporations, reports say, because they don't have enough people. So they could be making billions of dollars more by auditing large corporations, but they don't have the manpower. The Internal Revenue Services scrutiny, or auditing, going through the books of the largest U.S. companies, has fallen dramatically since 2010. due to a combination of shrinking IRS budgets. So as inflation goes up and wages go up, you would think that the IRS budgets would be going up, but it's continually been cut, and a rise of new large corporations, according to new reports from the Syracuse University researchers. The largest American companies, those that report more than $20 billion in assets, are classified as corporate giants by the IRS. In 2010, the IRS first began using that classification. 96% of the country's 446 corporate giants were audited. In 2017, the IRS only audited 54% of the now 616 companies that now qualified with that designation. And these type of companies, it takes a lot to go through their books. I mean, probably, a whole team of people. And remember, those corporate giants have whole teams of, accountants and stuff too. Researchers blame this drop in audits on a nearly 40% increase in the number of giants, combined with a nearly 35% fall in the number of IRS agents. So it's a double-edged cut there. As a result, the U.S. Treasury could be missing out on billions of dollars in tax revenue it is rightfully owed by corporate America every year. It is a seemingly fixable problem since an investment in new auditors pays for itself many times over. For example, auditors uncovered $10.4 billion owed to the government by 331 corporate giants last year, more than all revenue recovered from audits of individual taxpayers in 2017 alone. Wow. That $10.4 billion represents $33 million in recovered revenue per IRS agent. Wow. The average salary of a revenue agent is $106,000 per year. But IRS staff is shrinking. There were just 14,749,000 revenue agents on IRS payroll in 2010 and just 9,600 last year. Wow. Yeah, so do you see a problem with this? This is money that's owed to taxpayers. It's owed to our country. And these are from, and again, this doesn't even have to do with the tax rate. This has to do with really the tax code that's out there, and just having the IRS go through the books of these large corporations and saying, oh, well, this is wrong, this is wrong. Well, you did some creative financing here, and it's not really right. These are corporations that make over, what did they say, $20 billion? $20 billion, not $1 billion, $20 billion, let alone the companies that make over $1 billion or $2 billion or $5 billion. They don't even get a chance to audit them all. They don't have the manpower. So now if this bill passes, they'll have more manpower to be able to go through this. And you've seen that that alone brought in more tax dollars than all the people combined. Is that what it said? So, yeah. You can let me know your thoughts here in the comments, and I will keep you up to date here with everything going on here in our country on a daily basis. So make sure to subscribe down below to our YouTube channel. It's completely free to do so. Click the bell icon as well so you get notifications when we go live here with new videos. New videos come out here every day, 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will keep you up to date here. You can click here to watch my newest video next. And here is over 20 different states that are sending out cash payments, tax rebates, and stimulus checks to their residents. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.